This presentation will be about a learning activity wherein learners are asked to grammatically analyze a sentence. We begin with the basic question: how can English teachers, tutors, improve their skills with helping students understand grammar? English teachers and tutors are often trained to transmit prescriptive rules and understanding to students, which are usually void of context and are not fully explained. The primary goal of this activity is to help the learner, in this case English teachers and tutors, to better understand grammar analytically so they can, in turn, assist students to develop a deeper level of understanding of grammar. The activity itself will be a set of tasks where the learner is asked to analyze a sentence from the bottom up. They will begin with the word level, identifying the parts of speech. These words will then be formed into meaningful units called constituents. Finally, these constituents will be brought together to form the grammatical relations of the sentence, completing the task of analysis. This will be primarily accomplished by a series of questions and answers about the content of the sentence, relying on the learner to use their understanding of the knowledge to form connections in their mind. This will be checked by having them write a full sentence description of the sentence itself. This will serve as a check, as the learner will have to explain their analysis. These are the procedures of the activity, with example questions that will help the learner analyze the sentence. 1. We begin with asking what the category of each word is, and then we determine what and how these words combine into constituents. We can ask questions like the what, or what kind of cat, which will be seen in the example in the next slide. We can then ask what each constituent is. What is the subject? What is the thing that is doing the action? What is the object? That is, the thing having something done to it. And then we can ask about the verb. Where does the verb fit into the sentence? This leads to the next question of what the grammatical relations of the sentence are. The subject has already been identified, so what does this mean? Do the relations make sense? Go back and reevaluate each level. This will allow the learner to reevaluate the representation that they have created. And then, this will help them write a full sentence description of the sentence. Here is an example of how the procedure will be implemented. The example sentence is, "The red cat ate the food." The first question for the learner is, what category are these words? Which the learner will note by categorizing each word. The next question to ask is how these words combine into meaningful units. The learner would first analyze the nouns in the sentence. The phrase "the food" combines fairly easily. The next noun, however, has an adjective as well, the red cat. The learner can be presented with some questions to determine the way these are structured. What kind of cat? A red cat. The what? The red cat. This then brings about the question of what the roles of these groupings are. What is doing the eating, aka the subject? What is being eaten, aka the object? In this instance, the subject is the red cat, who is doing the eating, and the object is the food, which is the thing being eaten. Then there's the question of grammatical relations. If the subject has been identified, then what is the predicate, aka the constituent explaining what the subject did? So what did the red cat do? It ate the food. This would be the full analysis of the sentence. Learners would then be asked to explain this structure in their own words to check their understanding. Learners will be evaluated on their ability to correctly identify parts of speech, combine words into constituents, and put them together to form a representation of a sentence. This activity should give an indirect sense of how sentences are structured by asking simple questions. The learners can then perhaps apply the same procedure in their own lessons to help students analyze grammar. In closing, the method of analyzing sentences by asking questions can be an example of the Socratic method, and should help learners build a representation of a sentence and to explain how that sentence works. Further, because there are procedures for the representation to be double-checked, it imbues a sense of scientific thinking along the way. Of course, this activity is assumed for people who already have somewhat of a knowledge of English grammar. Any additional knowledge required would require a background information sentence, perhaps about English grammar and/or syntax.